Hello there everybody, this is Krista and welcome back to Crochet Witch Tarot and our next segment, Hello there everybody, this is Krista and welcome back to Crochet Witch Tarot and our next segment in our journey through the Forest of Enchantment. Now, last segment we were on a ride with the fairy wind. So we followed the fairy wind in kind of this course of action type theme through the next 4 majors. So, as usual, I'm going to start out by talking about my reading a little bit. And we started with strength, and the question here was, what have I overcome that I should take pride in? And I, for this, pulled the 2 of Spells, which in this deck is the 2 of Wands. And from this, it just was sort of this realization that from starting this journey through the Forest of Enchantment a few weeks ago now to now, I really have overcome what was a huge feeling of just kind of aimlessness, not really knowing what I was doing, not really feeling a sense of purpose. I feel like I've really overcome that in even just the past few days. I've just been creating more things, trying new things out, venturing out into the world a little bit more and seeing friends and things of that sort, just kind of immersing myself in that way. And the sun's been out, which helps for sure. And so I need to remember to take pride in the fact that that didn't just happen, you know, that's due to my own actions. So, next we have the Hermit, which is one of my favorite cards. Does it not look just so cozy in there? And our question for this was, how can I allow for heightened curiosity about who I am and what I want? And for this position, I got the 9 of Challenges, which is the 9 of Swords. And this is one of my favorite depictions of the 9 of Swords, because here we have this young figure kind of wrapped in this tree. And in the guided book, it talks about how I think they were kind of like running through the forest, hid here because everything seemed really like spooky and scary. It felt like there was these monsters chasing them. But when you actually look at the scene, it's just these really like bendy trees. It reminds me of that scene in Snow White when she's running through the forest, and in that one the trees do actually come alive. I don't know if that's what's happening here, but the whole concept is sort of how anxiety can sometimes manifest, or at least how I experience it, a lot of the time manifest as this perceived fear where there's not really actually anything for me to be scared of. It's just the way I perceive things. So from pulling this card, if I'm looking down a bunch, I've got my notebook here, what I sort of gathered from that in terms of this question was that it could be helpful for me to really spend time examining my shadows, looking at the things that feel like they're causing a sense of fear in me right now. Like, what is it that I'm thinking about that I am feeling scared of? Really examine those things, because I will probably find that these fears or like monsters in my, you know, if we want to personify them into monsters, I feel like that's what this card is doing, might not really be there, or just might not even be as big as I'm making them out to be. So that's what I got from that card. Then we've got the Enchanters Wheel, which was, how does a feeling of connection ground me to be better prepared for change? And for this, I pulled the Keeper of Challenges, which is the King of Swords in this deck. And from this, I really kind of got a sense of that when I feel connected to me, you can kind of interpret this question in any way you want. I took it as connected to the world around me in a divine sense. Like, how does that help me out? And what I took from this when I'm thinking about that King of Swords energy was that it does really help me to not instantly always go into kind of a panic mode, or if I do, be able to bring myself down from that quickly and get some rational thought in there and really think clearly about a situation. So when I am feeling connected in that way, I have a much easier time doing that for myself, which makes a world of difference. But on the other hand of the King of Swords, there is this air of perfectionism I associate with it. And so when I am feeling some kind of like divine connection or, you know, grounded, really grounded, I also tend to be more forgiving of myself and less expectant of perfection from myself, is what I found. So that kind of brought up two sides of that coin, which was really cool. Last but not least, the Huntsman. For this question, we have, what served to upset the balance in my life in the first place? And I got the Six of Challenges, which is in this deck, shows this, I can't think of what creature she is, but it talks about how she's up this tree. We've got some wolves down there. Can we see the wolves in this card? Yes, the wolves are down here. They chased her up this tree, and basically she can't fight the wolves. Her only option is she's safe, she's fine, but she's got to stay in the tree until they give up. So it's sort of this thing where it's this hasty retreat, and she's gotten herself to a place of safety, which is good, but now it's sort of like the waiting game. And so thinking about this question and what upset the balance in my life, which kind of led to that feeling of being a little lost, was it felt like I kind of had to make this abrupt retreat at the beginning, like end of February, beginning of March, when we started this as well, where there was just so much big change happening around me and within my own life that it was just like almost a need to kind of, it wasn't even a need, it felt like I was almost forced to make this big retreat and then kind of gather myself. And it for a little bit, it felt like a waiting game of like, I don't really know how I'm gonna respond to this. I don't know how this is gonna feel. But I don't have a choice. You know, I can't fight the wolves. I've got to stay up this tree and just see what happens. And now it kind of feels like I'm able to start coming down from that. So that was my reading from the last segment. Now let's get into the next one. And this is all about consideration. So we will be working with 3 cards, each having their own spread position. Starting with suspension, or the Hanged Man. The question we have here is, what might stillness teach me about my current situation? Then moving on to the Black Shuck, or in a regular Rider-Waite-Smith, the Death card, we have what needs to be released. And finally, we've got the Forge, or Temperance. I love that card. How can I more consciously balance external and internal priorities? And that's all we have for this segment. So I will put these questions down below, as usual. And I'm excited to see what you all got for this one. I've been loving watching the responses. I can't remember if I shared in my community tab, but I've been meaning to. But Astaria Sen, that is her channel name, Summer from Astaria Sen, has been posting video responses to these, and she has turned it into this really immersive story. So when she's sharing her readings and sharing her cards, it all follows this storyline she's creating. And so if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend. I have been thoroughly enjoying watching all her responses, and it's so magical and so cool how she is taking this journey and really making it her own, so I recommend that. But I've been loving all the responses. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Pretty sure. But I will see you all again very soon!